Hello and welcome. In this video tutorial, we'll be looking at how to create a quick and easy movie in PyMOL using scenes from Maestro. By the end of this tutorial, you'll be able to use Send to PyMOL in Maestro to easily create a movie in PyMOL 3, customize scene loop movie mutate settings in Maestro, and view and export a scenes-based movie in PyMOL 3. Let's get started. This video follows on directly from the Creating Scenes in Maestro to Tell a Scientific Story tutorial, so be sure to check that out if you're not familiar with how to save and view scenes in Maestro. I have the HTVS AMP-C Scenes project open in Maestro, and I'm going to come up to Workspace, Project Scenes and View. To recap, in Scene 1 we started with a PDB structure, going to a single chain of a prepared protein in Scene 2, zooming in on the binding site in Scene 3 and highlighting some key interactions, adding a label to note a suggested binding pocket residue flip in Scene 4, and finally in Scene 5 viewing the results of a water map calculation in order to identify potential hydration sites that are likely important for potency and that we might want to displace when designing new binders. The water map example here is particularly nice since we've chosen to only display high energy hydration sites and to use colouring that indicates the relative energy of the sites. We could export and load this structural data into PyMOL and try and recreate this kind of visualization, but it's much more straightforward to use the water map examine results panel in Maestro to inspect and display these results. Once we're happy with our scenes in Maestro, we can send them to PyMOL. Come up to File and choose Send to PyMOL. This dialog gives us a number of options for sending entries, scenes, and even trajectories in Maestro directly to PyMOL. We can choose scenes here and we can see the number of scenes we've saved is reflected. Next to options, we can choose to match style settings, meaning that where available, styling representations shown in our Maestro project will be preserved in PyMOL. And we can even send the Maestro mouse controls if preferred, but since I've already set my mouse controls to PyMOL mode within Maestro, I'm going to leave this unchecked. The next option, Create Scene Loop Movie, is what we're really interested in here. Check this box, and we can see that we can now customize how the new tape motion will function. For now, I'm going to keep this at the default 30 degrees and change the time to 4 seconds, and we'll see how this looks shortly. Finally, we can set the PyMOL location. This is the location of your PyMOL installation, the path to the executable or the application on a Mac, and you can use the Browse option here to locate PyMOL 3 with its updated icon if you have multiple versions installed. Once we've got everything set up, we can go ahead and click Send, and a new PyMOL window will open. We may need to wait a couple of seconds for all of the information we've included here to be processed by PyMOL, and we can see this taking place in the PyMOL command log. Once all of our scenes have been imported, we can click on Scenes in the panel toolbar to open the scene in PyMOL. Clicking through the scenes, we can see that everything has been imported pretty nicely, including our scene descriptions, which we can see as messages in the upper left corner of the workspace for each scene. So this all looks great, but what about the movie component? And what about the new tape feature that we saw in the Send to PyMOL dialog? Well, this brings us to a really exciting new feature in PyMOL 3. In the toggle toolbar below the Contents panel, click on the Timeline button. Now, instead of the command log, we can see the timeline. Let's ensure that the playhead is at the beginning and click the play button. The rocking and rotating motion is the new tape program here. So this is the 30-degree movement that plays for 4 seconds that we selected in Maestro. The auto-generated scenes timeline composition applies the new tape program and progresses through each of our Maestro scenes, which looks pretty great. And we can even click on Loop here to keep the timeline playback looping. We'll get into how to make some edits and how to use some more advanced timeline features in upcoming video tutorials, but since this Maestro to PyMOL animation is already looking pretty good, let's look at how to export it as a movie. Below the timeline, click on the Export Comp button to export this timeline composition. Just like we have both the draw or ray trace options for saving static images, we can see that we have both options for exporting animations. When saving movies, it's really worthwhile to use the draw mode to see how everything looks as a test before using the ray option, since processing a ray trace animation can take quite a long time. The default sizing here reflects my monitor size, but let's set this to 720 for simplicity and speed, and we can increase the resolution later if needed. Next, let's choose the FFmpeg encoder type, an industry standard. This encoder needs to be installed each time you use a new PyMOL version, so follow the prompts to make sure this is set up. And we're going to set our output to MPEG-4, which is the standard MP4 file type. Click Save Movie As and choose a file name and location. And we'll see the progress bar appear next to the panel toolbar along with the abort button. We can already see the value in doing a test export first, as even with these moderate resolution settings and using draw mode rather than ray, processing can take a few seconds. Let's wait for this to finish processing, and when it's finished we can open and check out our nice little 12-second movie. Now that you have an idea of what the new tape motion looks like, have a go at editing the angle and the time in the Center PyMOL dialog back in Maestro. Change the styling or add or delete some scenes to create some alternate versions of this movie to export in PyMOL. You might also want to try out some of the other export options, for example using ray instead of draw, and check out the earlier generating images video tutorial for a recap of some ray tracing settings. But be aware that ray tracing movies can take a lot longer than using draw mode, and we'll be getting into some nice ray tracing settings for movies in upcoming videos. This brings us to the end of this tutorial. You can now use Center PyMOL in Maestro to easily create a movie in PyMOL 3, customize scene loop movie mutate settings in Maestro, and view and export a scenes-based movie in PyMOL 3. Thanks for watching.